Alrighty. Hello, everybody out there in Radio Land.
Woohoo!
Good afternoon, and hello. My name is Greg, and we
I'm
have Gabriel. And together we are the hosts of the Sunshine Reformer podcast, broadcasting right here in Central Florida. Today we have a banger of an episode. So much stuff has happened this goddamn week. Holy shenanigans. But first and foremost, let's talk about the beer I'm drinking.
Yeah.
Since that seems to be a hit so far. And by the way, everybody that's been giving us feedback, this is only our 4th episode, but we've already, reached out to a lot of people, and a lot of people have listened. And I mean, just even to have this much feedback in such a short amount of time, what a great thing. But anyway, so today I'm drinking Funky Buddha. It's literally called Floridian, which is what we are. And this is another wheat beer. You'll notice that that's kind of what I'm going to be sticking to in that category. So Funky Buddha is a brewery located in, I think it's near Fort Lauderdale, if I'm not wrong. Let me see. Oakland Park, Florida. Yeah.
I don't know where that is.
I'm 100% sure it's by Fort Lauderdale. It's just like a neighborhood of that area. I know because I used to live down there and I used to go there all the time. I just forget the name of the city until now. But they are a really, really good brewery down there. They have a lot of different really good beers to choose from. And they make a very refreshing ale. So that's what this is. And it is very good.
And I'm just drinking apple cider and whiskey.
'Tis the season. Sounds like
tis the season.
It's a very fall drink.
Yeah, spiced cider.
Yeah,
spiced in more than one way.
Exactly.
I always forget how big Florida is, because you're saying Fort Lauderdale and stuff. And always, whenever I hear about Fort Lauderdale, Miami, that kind of the really far south area, south of the Everglades or adjacent to, I always remember like a stat kind of thing where Florida, I don't remember which direction it is, but Florida is either like 80% the size of the UK or it's like 120% of the size of the UK. It's one or the other. I don't know which direction it was.
It's pretty close.
And there's actually a website that you can go to, and it compares the size of each state to how many UKs it would be to make up that state's square mileage and area. I don't know. That was just kind of a random thing, but Florida's huge, dude. Driving south to Melbourne, 4 hours, or 2 hours there, 2 hours back for us. And then just to keep going to Miami, that's like 4 or 5 hours easy, not including any traffic,
Yeah. Miami's about 3.5 if I don't have any traffic and my foot's on the gas. 3.5 hours from Orlando to Miami. Ironically, Michigan, which is my native land, is very similar to the size of Florida. A lot of people don't realize that, how big Michigan is also. Just basically the United States are huge compared to Europe or whatever.
Each state is truly large. Quite except obviously like Rhode Island or something. You'd take 30 minutes. You just kind of drive through it. But Florida's huge. I can't imagine how big California is or Texas.
Yeah, California's bigger for sure. And Texas is bigger. I actually have firsthand experience with this because I used to live in Miami. My wife and I used to work for a residential alarm company that at the time it was Protection One, which is a Utah-based company, and then they got purchased by ADT, which everybody knows about that company. And when we were in Miami, we were with Protection One, and we got a chance to kind of like a side business thing, but it's kind of a long story. But the point is I had to drive from Miami to El Paso. And
just get a plane ticket. Just get
I know.
Oh man.
I
know.
It's a long story, but we had to drive. We didn't have the money to fly. It didn't end up turning out the way we wanted it to, but man, oh man, what a story. And driving from, like, it almost took us a whole day just to drive from Miami all the way to Pensacola. And I think we ended up staying the night, not in New Orleans, but there was a city called Lafayette, which is, I believe, still west of New Orleans. Don't quote me out there. It's not that far from New Orleans. And we ended up staying in a it was the former governor of Louisiana's former slave plantation, of course. And this had been turned into an Airbnb. And my wife thought, we used to use Airbnb all the time, before COVID and everything. And this was just one of the most memorable situations I've ever been in. Like, just anyone who's ever been to Louisiana, I mean, I know there's a lot of, terrible stuff. But I mean, they really truly have their own, like, unique culture. Like, the whole state is just their own. They got their own thing down there, and it's really, I think it's truly amazing and unique. And we just had a really good time the couple times that we spent there. But it is a long drive. It's unbelievable. And then when you get to Texas, we had to go all the way to El Paso, which is the entirety of the I-10, whatever it's called, freeway. But there's a certain stretch between Austin and, like, some other city where the speed limit is 85 miles an hour, which is the highest in the country. And it
would be in Texas. It has to be.
Right, and I ended up doing 90 at one point, and I got pulled over for doing 90.
5 over. They're like, we already gave you 85. You can't go back. No,
yeah,
that's it.
Yep. The guy's like, nope, there's no leeway, and I was like, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, that's way more than fair. There are people who do like 90 out here in Florida, and no one gives a shit.
So, yeah, no, I know the freeway systems, I think, in most states are pretty reckless.
I don't know if he's gonna hate me or not, because I'm totally stealing this from my friend, but he's always said Florida has the most democratic roads. The speed limit is whatever the people want it to be.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So, same thing with turn signals and all that. So.
Yeah. So let's get down to business.
Yes.
So to speak. There's a lot to unpack for this week.
Yeah. Trump almost died. There was a presidential debate in there somewhere.
There was a debate.
Like, holy crap. That just kind of, like, everyone just forgot about that, It's supposed to be a VP debate coming up too.
I know. That's really been the dominating news is Trump being in the hospital. Whether or not it's a fucking PR stunt. There's a lot of speculation. I have my own personal thoughts on that, which I'll share with you. I don't even think I told you about it yet. What I think about it.
I don't think you have.
But that's okay. It'll be a bombshell.
Genuine reaction.
Yeah. But I've got a couple things on my end to discuss here, which I decided I would go first because there's so much stuff to talk about on the political spectrum. And then I also want to give a shout out to. Oh wait, crap.
Oh yeah, you froze.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I cut out for a second. Sorry about that.
It's okay. We work at home, so like.
And I'm on my iPad, so phone calls come in. Anyways, I wanted to give a shout out to the Orlando chapter of the SRA. Well, the unofficial chapter of the Central Florida SRA stuff. I'll briefly get into what we did. 2 days ago. Saturday.
Yeah, because today's Monday.
And that was a lot of fun too. So, first and foremost, the first article I have today, and if you want to pull it up, Gabe.
Yeah.
So this happened in my backyard, which isn't surprising considering this is fucking Florida. But here is a story about a gentleman who decided that it was a good idea. So this is, I'm just going to summarize in my own words. I know you can read the article, but as far as I know, this is a road rage incident. There are varying reports saying that the gentleman who did the shooting was the aggressor. which honestly wouldn't surprise me. But there's other people I've heard saying that he was not the aggressor, the other person, that this happened to be a car chase on the 417 freeway that runs through Orlando. And so I don't know. But the point is this gentleman, the video shows him, a car drives past this person who's got the gun and is going to end up shooting. They flashed the gun out the window. They literally, it's called brandishing. They didn't shoot it. I guess they could have shot it, but they didn't.
I think that's illegal because you're not supposed to You're not supposed to hold it in a threatening manner.
It is. Oh, it is most certainly illegal. Yes, absolutely.
Like an open carry state, the only reason why you can open carry is as long as you're not using it in a threatening manner or something like that. So as soon as you start using it in a threatening manner, you're pretty much arrestable at that point.
Correct. So right, no, that's absolutely correct. The person that, whether or not this person in the well, actually, I guess it would matter if this person that ended up shooting was the aggressor. But either way, so this, at least in the video, from what we have for video evidence, at least, it looks as though that the person in the sports car, which is what they call it, drives past the person in the truck at a very high rate of speed. I think it was 90 to 100 miles an hour. In response, the gentleman in the truck with the dash cam speeds up towards that person and then takes his gun out and starts shooting out the window or out the windshield.
The fucking windshield, dude. Just like straightforward. Your drive. I just can't imagine like doing this ever. Like never would I ever think shooting straight through my windshield that I'm driving forward with would be like an idea. And I don't think he's wearing glasses or anything. No, he's not. So like all I can think about is like, well, what if you have glass like shatter straight into your eyes? You know? Now you're driving, you got a loaded gun, you're shooting, you got glass flying at you at like, I don't know, 70 miles an hour in the opposite direction or whatever.
He sped up to 100. He sped up to 100 miles an hour while shooting.
So it's like, dude.
So, and again, there was... Let me see if it says here.
Oh, his friend's scared shitless too, the entire time.
Yeah.
It's just like, so uncomfortable.
So I don't believe, I think it said somewhere that the person he was shooting at got hit, but I don't think they did. That's almost an impossible shot anyways. And when you shoot at glass, like the trajectory of a bullet changes so much.
Well, just the angle alone will change it. I mean, that was the reason why we added angles on the front of tanks in between World War I and World War II, was because the angle in front of the tank, you could have less steel, but if the angle's there, it'll deflect bullets better.
Right.
So
no, yeah, you're right. So anyways, this video's been making the rounds, and of course, much like any kind of shooting situation, the keyboard warriors, if you will, whether you fall on the side of, basically the idea of defense is a very subjective, you want to call it. Just there's so many different varying opinions on it, and I'm going to go ahead and give mine. This person was in no way, shape, or form in danger of being killed by a firearm. If somebody is driving past you at a high rate of speed, even if they brandish the firearm, guess what? You're in a car. You have full ability to hit the brakes, go pull off to another exit, switch lanes. Any of these things are, in my opinion, a better option than pulling your gun out and shooting it through your windshield. This kind of goes back to, and this is an extreme case. But, of course, like I mentioned in a previous episode, this goes back to how people are trained with firearms. In this case, I've actually seen law enforcement in videos shoot their gun out of a windshield at somebody that they were chasing. So it makes total sense to me that if this person in this video got training from a law enforcement officer, I don't know where this person was trained, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least if that training came from some kind of law enforcement, either a person or maybe he did go to the academy. I don't know, but it's just a completely unnecessary way to handle this situation as a civilian, as an armed civilian. This is what I would call a murder fantasy. This is somebody who has been itching and dying for so long to have an opportunity like the show happen, and then they wanted to take action.
It's my turn. Finally, the time has come.
They got a nice rock hard erection from it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened here, and it's just completely reckless. And that's why I said I was surprised that this person didn't get arrested, because it said that he turned himself in, or he reported the incident to the sheriff's department. I don't know if there's going to be an investigation. This article is from when? September 28th, so just a few days ago. And I don't know what's going to happen, but fortunately I don't drive on the toll roads that much. I usually just stick to I-4 or whatever, but this is just complete insanity. And
well, the toll roads
reckless.
suck anyway, so I mean, good on you.
Yeah.
I hate the toll roads. Every time that we have to use toll roads in Central Florida, because they don't really exist up here in Northeast Florida.
Right.
I think Jacksonville's doing something, but it's like a quick lane option, and it's a fourth lane for 295, so it's not even the main road. But
right.
All the toll road options are just as bad. You know, people always are like, oh, but there's like not as many potholes. And it's like every time I go on there, there's potholes everywhere and there's like trash everywhere too. So it's like, it's just as bad or worse as like some of the public roads. So yeah, good on you.
I agree.
Good on you.
And I'm also not going to shoot my gun out my windshield. So.
Or get shot at. Holy crap. Can you imagine like driving against that? Like you're driving by and you see like this guy's windshield just pop out and just like bullets fly
people were commenting and saying like, what if there was a fucking car in front of that person with, children or whatever? Like,
it doesn't take much for you to just kind of like aim a little off and you're already shooting into the other lane. You're already shooting into oncoming traffic.
Okay, I don't know how much training this person's had, but I don't care who you are. I don't care how much training you've had. You're not going to hit a fucking target driving 90 miles an hour shooting through a windshield. No. It's just not going to happen.
Snipers wouldn't take that. Like the best snipers in the world wouldn't take a shot like that.
No.
Nobody would.
So, I don't know. It just makes me, again, just the shake my head emoji, whatever. It's a nightmare. So all of that being, did you have anything else to say about that?
Not anything more than I'm just greatly disappointed.
Exactly.
And, of course, it happened in Florida, and this kind of goes back to Andrew Gillum would have been a great choice because at least he would have represented Florida.
Exactly. Being a cokehead.
Oh.
Well, all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and transition to the next thing that I wanted to cover.
Yeah.
Because, again, I get most of my inspiration from the couple groups that I'm in on Facebook, just general chatter that I see on the internet. I tend to follow a lot of that stuff pretty closely. And I don't want to dig too deep into the quote-unquote caliber wars that goes on a lot between people in the gun community and whatever, but it's going to kind of briefly touch on that. So I'm going to talk about what to think about when choosing a home defense caliber. And because this is something that I've actually thought about a lot in the last couple of years of owning guns, and it's part of the reason why I bought, hang on.
Yep. Hey, buddy. Hey, don't forget to show the bolt. Oh, wait. Yeah, don't forget to show the bolt and everything's cleared and all that.
Well, hang on a second.
Double check, make sure everything's clear.
It's clear now. Yeah, so now the bolt is clear. No magazine, no brass, no ammo. But this is my Home Defense AR-15.
Looks nice.
And thanks. Yeah, I don't think I've shown it to you yet.
No, this is the first time I'm seeing it.
Yeah, it's like a titanium blue color, which
I like it a lot.
Attention. Yeah, actually, one person that showed up at the range the other day had a titanium blue, but they had to get it done. It was forgive me if you're listening, sir. I forget your because of anonymity. I forget your real name, but
conveniently.
It's the person. It's the there's a couple from Melbourne that actually live, and he had his rifle Cerakoted at a local shop there on the Space Coast. But yeah, so I've got an AR-15. I also have my again my carry gun, which is clear, no brass, no ammo. This, of course, is 9mm. Handgun, but I chose these calibers for a reason, and there's a lot of debate out there as to what would be the best home defense round, and I'm going to just go ahead and explain my setup and the reason why I have it set up this way, and I think it really would make sense for most people, based on my logic, to go ahead and do the same thing. So the first thing that I ever bought for both carry and home defense was a 9mm handgun. As many people know, 9mm caliber is the most common caliber probably worldwide, I would say. It's probably a toss-up between 9mm and I would actually say 7.62 by 39. Which is the AK-47 round standard. And then, of course, 5.56, which is the standard AR-15 round.
And NATO round, which is kind of an important geopolitical thing. So,
right, and NATO round, yeah. All of those are considered NATO rounds, as a matter of fact. And the very short answer as to why that is because they work. They work really well. The recoil impulse for all three of those cartridges in their proper platforms is very low. It's very easy to shoot 5.56 caliber in a standard size AR-15, and alternatively to a decent sized handgun, 9mm is pretty easy to shoot effectively and accurately. It's common, which makes it inexpensive. That's just basically it. And a lot of people talk about shit hit the fan situations. If there's a complete societal collapse, what's going to be out there? Well, there's going to be ammo available, or there's going to be components out there for you to make your own ammo. And that's
or the weapons too. The weapons that go with this type of ammo. The stuff that the magazines that feed into your gun, the parts that make up your gun, the barrel sizes, like all of these parts are more widely available in these three ammunition types, calibers. So you're more likely to find some sort of replacement part for these ammunition calibers than others too.
Right. No, exactly. That's exactly right. And so, because here's basically what I hear from people. I hear a lot about shotguns, and I completely agree with having a shotgun as a home defense option. However, there's a myth there's a big fat juicy myth out there that I don't like.
Can I guess what it is?
Let's hear it.
My guess is the burglar's gonna shit their pants when they hear me rack my shotgun. Is that the myth? Is that the one you're gonna? Or am I wrong?
That's not the one I was gonna say, but that is certainly some good old fashioned FUD lore, which is what we talked about last time. But there is another myth that is a good one. The one I was thinking of is that you don't have to aim when you shoot a shotgun.
Oh yeah, that's really bad.
And that's not true. The whole thing being, you hear a bump in the night and you point your shotgun at wherever the sound came from and pull the trigger and you're gonna hit something. It's not true.
All of your shit.
Yeah, you're gonna hit your kitchen, and all your plates are gonna be broken. Whatever.
Honey, don't ask. The toilet's leaking. Don't ask how or why it's broken in half. Just we need to get a new one.
Exactly. So that's why so shotguns are fine. My only problem with shotguns is capacity. Again, the myth is that, a shotgun's going to stop anything, which is, I think, probably mostly true, but most shotguns only have, 5 or 6 rounds. Just for me, it just didn't make sense to have one. And I don't have that much experience with a shotgun anyway, so maybe, I'm not dissuading anybody from buying a shotgun. If you grew up shooting a shotgun and that's what you're comfortable with, by all means, get a shotgun. It's fine. I would say that that's the only other alternative, though, for what I'm talking about. But for me, the reason why I picked an AR-15 is because, again, I spent 10 years in the military. I spent a long time with this weapon system. I'm 100% trained and qualified, and I feel very comfortable using it and shooting it, taking care of it, maintaining it, all that kind of stuff. And it just made a lot of sense for me to buy this rifle and have it for home defense. It carries 30 rounds in its magazine, so that's a big deal for me. Just having more ammo, it's kind of the why not, adage, like just why not? And then also, I don't know if this has crossed a lot of people's minds, especially people that don't have experience with either rifles or handguns or whatever. They're just kind of new to guns in general, and they know that just there's limited information out there. But so there's a really big difference ballistically speaking, between a handgun bullet, 9mm, and a 223-5.56. A big common misconception is that when you look at a 223 bullet, you can look at the grain weight. So a typical 5.56 223 bullet is only 55 grains, which is the weight, or the weight measurement for bullets. 9mm typical, like you just had on the one you showed me, yours was 124 grain, I believe.
I think so. Hold on.
Is that what it says?
Whew. Oh, here it is. I put it way back here. Yep, 124.
Yep, and so that's, I would say, within the realm. Typically, if you just look at like range ammo, it's 115 grain, so just a little bit less than that. And then 9mm can go all the way up to 147 grain, which 147 grain typically is subsonic ammo, something that you would shoot out of a suppressor. And so a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's a smaller bullet. It's not going to do as much damage or whatever. How wrong you would be. So rifle bullet ballistics, when you look at just like the feet per second and, ballistically versus a 9mm, the 5.56 bullet is going about 2,000, sometimes 2,500 feet per second. That's really fast. 9mm bullets usually go about 1,100 feet per second, which is half the speed. And what happens when a rifle bullet goes into soft tissue is it causes something called hydrostatic shock, or a hydrostatic shock wave that literally blows a cavity. When you look at it in ballistic gel, it's a really dramatic interpretation, but when it hits your body, it just creates such damage, in such a short amount of time. It's just it creates, let's just say, it creates a lot more damage in your body from hitting soft tissue versus a 9mm. Mm-hmm. The bullet has to travel, I believe it's something like 1,700 feet per second at a minimum to do the big cavity thing, and just 9mm just doesn't go fast enough to do that. Not saying that 9mm is not lethal, of course it very much is, but it just doesn't do the internal damage in the same way that a rifle caliber does. And so that's basically the difference right there, which is why for me, and then also 5.56 will go through more types of body armor than 9mm. Most body armor is rated for at least 45 ACP and 9mm. Most body armor is not rated for, let's just say most body armor that like the police wear, for example. 5.56 will go through that kind of body armor, most soft body armor, which I want to be ready for. Not saying anything specific.
Well, like
but
a lot of the time, the police will have like some sort of surplus military thing because they get incentivized to purchase surplus military stuff, or sometimes they get it for free. In a lot of instances too. So if the military is giving it away, it's probably really popular amongst gun enthusiasts who are civilians or maybe ex-military or ex-cops or whatever, because they're already like with you with the AR-15 coming from an M4, you're familiar with that. The same way that you'd be familiar with that, people who look into body armor would probably look where they're familiar as well. So you want to target like what people are probably going to not have, because statistically, if someone's going to break in and they have body armor or something, well, it's probably going to be that.
Right.
And
that's
it's cheaper
that's
to make too.
Yeah, the TLDR of everything is I wanted a home defense firearm that would basically stop anything that's going to come through my door. And like I said before, shotgun, sure, you could argue that for a shotgun, and which is why I said that, if that's what your thing is, then by all means. But for me, an AR-15 chambered in 5.56 is going to stop most things that we're gonna. If someone is going to enter my house at night with malicious intent, I have pretty full confidence that this is going to be able to neutralize the threat. And that's pretty much it. I do keep I put lights on all of my firearms as well, and I recommend you do the same. There are plenty of stories out there of people shooting their family members, people they didn't mean to shoot, so to speak, at night, because they just didn't know who was in front of their gun. And so get a flashlight. It's a very inexpensive,
it's fairly
and
cheap. It's fairly cheap.
It's a great way to see what you're shooting at. This one that's on my gun was literally like $40 on Amazon, and the back twists off, and it actually it came with a little charger with 2 batteries, so I always have one charged up, so the batteries are rechargeable. This one on my gun actually has a little magnetic thing on the bottom that charges it. Charges like an Apple Watch, which is awesome. So you don't have to worry about batteries.
And it goes back to like one of the gun rules too, the basic gun rules. Know what you're shooting, know what's behind what you're shooting, And you can't know that if you can't see it.
Yeah. You would think most people would follow that, but if you just literally type in like man shoots family member into Google, there's like 50 stories that come up of people shooting people they don't mean to shoot.
And I don't know if this is true.
Yeah.
I heard this from a friend, and I heard that it's either the CIA or the FBI, one of the big government organizations. They have their people train. How the police will they'll hold the pistol and the flashlight kind of like this or something like that.
Yes.
What I don't really know. I don't really care either.
They do it with.
They'll do that, and it's like the thought process to what I'm about to say is that wherever the light's coming from, someone's going to probably shoot at that because there might be a person behind it if they wanted to, confront in that manner or whatever. So if you're holding a flashlight like this, you're giving away your position in some way. So I don't know if this is true. I heard that the CIA or FBI or whatever, they'll hold their flashlights like way up here, and they have to train and practice and be accurate, of course, shooting like this with a flashlight up here, and they're the gun out like that, one-handed like that. I don't know. I'm just saying, food for thought if you want to look, if someone wants to look into that.
I've never heard that. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm by no means an expert in.
I think the logic's there, but I've honestly never been in a situation, and I've never trained that way before. So, I would. This goes back to training.
Common. It's pretty common to for most, at least if in this case you're talking about handguns.
Yeah. In this case,
most handguns, on the bottom, they come what's called a 1913 Picatinny rail, is what it's called. And in my opinion, if you have any kind of carry gun that you're trying to get, really any kind of self-defense gun, in my opinion, you should have a flashlight. And this has definitely been the trend for, I don't know, at least the last 5 years, probably longer, where it's just called WML, weapon mounted lights, whatever. We definitely had weapon mounted lights in Afghanistan, attached to our M4s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never heard of anybody going like this with a flashlight and like, yeah, you know, like.
Well, it doesn't look that bad.
I know. It maybe that might have been a thing, you know, years ago, like without, before, you know, because I know
someone should look it up and put it in the comment section, you know, when we post the video. Get that because interaction points for YouTube or something.
I would just say, like, if you're casing a joint, so to speak, if you're like, or you're doing room clearing or whatever, yeah, I don't know. It just sounds like too much. You definitely have more control of your weapon when you have a two-handed grip.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to look into it. Maybe that used to be a training tactic.
Hey, that might be one of the sources I put in too, you know?
Yeah. There used to be, they called it Israeli carry, which was like the case for or against carrying your gun with a round in the chamber.
Oh, okay.
And that was like, you know, all of these old-timey kind of people were like, oh, well, the Israeli army does it, so it must be the way. And they used to carry with a round not in the chamber. And of course, since then, I think it's been pretty universally accepted to carry with a round in the chamber, and focusing on just, you know, trigger discipline,
safety, engagement,
that kind of stuff. So, as far as training tactics, I think they do evolve over time. You know, as far as just learning different ways to do things and that kind of thing. So
I didn't know it was called that. I would have never guessed.
What, Israeli carry?
Yeah, I would have never guessed that.
It's just because that's allegedly how they used to train their people back, like, probably 20-ish plus years ago, whatever. Because, of course, before Glocks came out with the trigger safety, that wasn't a thing. Most guns before that had a frame-mounted safety, like the Beretta M9. Anything that's double action, single action, back in the day, typically had a frame-mounted safety. And now guns don't have that anymore. So,
doesn't the military require the like any guns manufactured for the military to have a safety like that? That's why the striker fire pistol they just bought had to have an actual frame-mounted safety. Yes,
you are 100% correct. The SIG P320, which is the new military issue rifle, which is in the military, is called the M17 or the M18, depending on what branch. The Army is using the M17, which is the full size. The M18 is the shorter barrel, but still 17 round capacity grip version. Definitely has a frame mounted safety, which, I mean, the Army is the lowest common denominator. It's the reason why AR-15s are so easy to shoot.
Yes.
They have to make sure that everybody can shoot it and everybody stays safe, so to speak.
I think we talked about that in one of our first episodes with the M16 being developed for people for 17-year-olds. You know, a 17-year-old needs to be able to shoot this reliably and accurately almost every single time. And if they can't do it, then we don't need it.
Yeah, there was some speculation as to why Glock didn't win the military contract. I've never seen a Glock with a frame-mounted safety on it before. I'd never seen a SIG striker-fired handgun with that on it also, but obviously they didn't have a problem designing it and putting it on there in a timely manner. Mm-hmm. So I think that's partly why they won. Also, they don't look like a prison gun.
Well, here's a question: if it was SIG that made striker fires really popular, like Glocks did, do you think it would have been SIG that looks like a prison gun instead of a Glock?
Okay,
that's the real question.
The people that know me and that see me on the Facebook pages all the time talking about my hatred of Glock. Let's just put it this way: I don't hate Glocks. I hate that they're overpriced. I think that for what you get in the box and all that kind of stuff, they should be half the price. There's no reason to spend $650 on a super basic handgun design that hasn't changed in 30 years. But at the same time, I give Glock all kinds of praise and all the credit that's due because they started the platform. They had to start somewhere, and this guy Gaston Glock said, "You know what? I am going to think outside the box and design this thing to work, function first, and not really make it look pretty. It's just going to work good, and it does. It works great. It's super reliable, and it is what it is." But my biggest problem with Glocks is I think they are overpriced. I don't, in the 35, 40 years that it's been since they've come out, their feature set really hasn't changed that much. Whereas again, stuff like this, my Canik TP9 SC for $380 is an optic ready, comes with steel sights, has really good ergonomics, really, really nice trigger out of the box. You don't have to do anything to this gun and it's already a really nice shooting gun. Whereas you pick up a Glock and the first thing anyone does is change out the sights, change out the trigger, whatever, add any kind of modifications you can think of, and that's just that. So I'm gonna put that to bed real quick. I don't hate Glocks. I just think they're
okay. You're allowed to say that you hate Glocks.
Yeah, but they're fine. If you want to buy a Glock and if you like the way they look, I don't care.
Greg just thinks you're a terrible person, is all.
You just is it gonna shoot every time you pull the trigger? Absolutely. So if you want to buy a Glock and learn how to shoot it and be responsible for it. And
hey, that's the most important part is training.
We can be friends. It's fine. But then I'm gonna hand you my Canik and then tell you to rethink what you did.
I'll make you feel bad.
I'm just kidding. So I think that's my time. I don't want to go too far into stuff. We have a lot to unpack with other stuff.
Okay, so I was thinking just for
Gabriel.
some of this stuff in the weekend or over the week or whatever, we just touch on briefly so we can get to the big juicy topics.
Yes, let's do it.
So real quick, Trump COVID situation. He caught it finally. I don't know. We've been telling you for 8 months now. Like
there's a whole tag group on Facebook, and it says, well, if you haven't, how's it go? If it isn't the consequences of your own actions, like
it's like
pure and simple.
It's like, oh, let me take this, point it at my foot. What does this trigger thing do? Oh my God, my foot's bleeding now. Like, oh geez. I don't know. There's nothing really to add there. It's just I feel like we are obliged to bring it up since it happened recently. Big deal.
And you know what? I gotta just say it. Fuck the people that are saying, and I know it's mostly just people on the right, but like, oh, you're wishing death on somebody. That's,
dude, 210,000 people died as of today from this disease. A disease that could have been prevented if we just took a month and everybody just stayed inside for a little bit. And then we would have killed the curve and it would have been fine and to the best of the ability. Then we would have come out with a vaccine and then we put it out and all of a sudden we're good. Done, easy. Could have been that easy.
So yeah, it's it is a nightmare.
8 months later instead though. So
the latest I had heard, what you're saying is, it's just a nightmare. The latest I heard though on my my news, I got a news feed here on my phone every once in a while, and it says This was 1 hour ago from AP News.
I love Associated Press. I love them.
Data best.
They truly are.
This isn't loading fast enough. Here we go. The latest positive. This gentleman named Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina. He tested positive last week for the coronavirus. He still can't taste anything somehow. That doesn't sound good.
That sounds like a polio thing. You know how polio came with a lot of side effects that were really weird after you healed from it? You know, it wasn't as bad as, you know, losing your taste is not as bad as losing your ability to use your legs. You know, I'm not comparing them obviously, but it's kind of interesting that this virus has the ability to just like, oh yeah, a whole sense gone.
I know. Well, my mom didn't have a sense of smell, but that was from a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can't even imagine not being able to taste anything. That would be a nightmare.
Very bland.
And then, so I think it said, well, it doesn't say it in this article, but it said something about that he was going to be leaving the hospital today. But let's see. But he's still going to be contagious, of course. I mean, you know, why not just stay in the hospital? Of course, he did his famous little field trip around the hospital.
Spreading
grounds.
The disease. Spread the disease.
So his limousine is hermetically sealed to block out chemical attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you shut all the doors on the vehicle, you're locked in there and it's airtight. They circulate air into the fucking car or whatever.
Those poor Secret Service members.
Yeah,
just like getting it right in your face.
Yeah, all those people in that car were susceptible. So
unrelated, but also related. Can you imagine being the president in the car and there's like, you know, a few Secret Service members, and then you fart in the car? And it's like everybody knows it's you, but because they're like, you know, they don't want to. They're Secret Service members. They don't want to do any. You know, they just want to look cool or whatever. They're not going to say anything. So they're just sitting in the president's fart, like that. Except less funny, and it's a deadly virus, is what we're talking about.
and you can't smell it.
Yeah, and you can't smell it.
I'm pretty sure you can't smell COVID.
Okay. So
what did you have articles, or are you just gonna?
I have some other things. I felt like we needed to talk about that, and you know, I don't want to get too into it, but the debate trash. Trump was a trash in the debate. Biden was also not great, but he was way better than Trump, and he didn't disavow Antifa like I thought he was.
Right.
He
everybody's saying that
he said the correct thing. You know,
right.
It's not an organization; it's an ideology, or it's like an idea and stuff. So, I mean, that was way more than what I had expected from Biden, and
yeah,
that's all I got to say about that.
Did you watch the whole thing?
I watched the whole thing. I think after we were about 10 minutes in, because I missed the first 10 minutes, give or take. So, but from there on, I watched pretty much the rest of it, and I would not imagine that the first 10 minutes was too much different from the rest of it. So,
right. No, it didn't get juicy until, 20, 30 minutes in or whatever.
So,
they are selling T-shirts that say "Shut the fuck up, man" or whatever Biden said to the gentleman.
What is it? I don't think he said. I don't think he dropped the F-bomb. I think it was "Shut the hell up" or something.
Just shut up, man, or whatever.
That was also way more than I expected from Biden. I thought he was just kind of roll over and just die and take it. But no, he actually was pretty engaging with the telling Trump to just like, oh, you're stupid or something,
Quit acting like a 5-year-old.
Yeah, basically, it was like, it's not the jab I would want to see, because it just feels so good to see Trump get jabbed at. But it's like a mature jab. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Right.
It was on national TV. He's a presidential candidate. That's like way better.
I completely agree. I think for what it was, Biden handled himself much better than I ever expected. If I'm honest, I guess I don't, you know, as being leftists or whatever, like we want basically a complete dismantling of the current system, ideally. But you know,
Yeah.
if we're gonna argue for argument's sake or whatever, I haven't really checked into that much about what Biden is, how he's like in these kind of situations and whatever. But just having kind of watched it objectively and not really with an opinion, I did mostly like what I saw, you know, overall.
Yeah. You know, the revolution is not going to come tomorrow. So
Right.
all those people who are like, well, Biden sucks and I just would rather have the revolution or third party, whatever. I don't know what else to tell you, man. Biden's not the fascist, and it's going to be either Trump or Biden. Voting third party isn't going to be that great unless you live in like a what is it called? Oh man, I feel like I need to know this. I know this. It's the battleground states where like Florida and Ohio where
Purple?
yeah, the purple states. If you don't live in a purple state, if you live in like a guaranteed XYZ state, you know, your vote for a third party matters a little bit more there than it would in the purple states. But if you live in purple state, it's probably better to vote Biden because realistically, third party is not going to win, nor is third party realistically going to get enough votes to get any type of funding from, I believe it's Congress or something like that. I think if they get like 3.5% of the popular vote, they get funding for the party on a federal level. I don't know the specifics on that, so I could be wrong. Probably not going to happen. The closest third party ever got was Gary Johnson, and he was a libertarian, which is basically just, you know, anarcho-capitalism. So,
Right.
And I don't think anybody on the left approves of that. So I don't think we're going to see any third party come up and get 3.5% of the vote. Probably better to just not have the fascist in power at that point. And then speaking electorally, you know, the revolution is not coming anytime soon. I would rather have the Democrats be the quote conservative party and like some new left-leaning party, maybe like the DSA or something like that, be the new left party of the United States. I would rather have that rather than like actual fascists be the right hand party.
Well, I mean, it's right there in the name too, which I think if you polled 100 Democrats and said, there's this party called the Democratic Socialist Party of America, you know, here's our main, you know, bullet points of what we believe in. I feel like because people are people, just having the word Democratic there in the name, like, would probably be a better sell, you know, to most of like the, I don't want to call them like centrists or whatever you want to, just more or less active political people that just, so like, for example, Amber, my wife, opposed to Amber, your wife.
I know. Both of our wives are Amber.
Yeah, that's a fun fact for the podcast. So her family, we grew up in Detroit, like I mentioned, and Detroit as a city typically has been democratically run. You know, they aren't without their problems, of course. Yeah. Detroit's got a pretty interesting history.
The political parties are made of people, and people have problems.
Right.
I would expect them to have something wrong.
The point is that Amber told me when she was growing up, like her grandparents and her parents and all that kind of stuff always just vote. It was literally the vote blue no matter who sentiment, which is a popular thing amongst lifetime Democrats. But I truly think that even if I walked up to Amber's, 89-year-old grandmother and said, "Hey, Grandma, like, check this out. This is a new kind of party. It's still within like the Democratic like wavelength, but it's a little bit different." And I explained the stuff to her. She'd probably be like, "Oh, it's got Democratic in the name. I'm just going to go ahead and vote for them from now on." You know what I mean? Just like people that just aren't as active, they're just going to, I think they'd be a little bit more easy to sway to that direction.
Maybe. And that'd be a key part in getting that over. Because again, as I said earlier, I would rather see like the Democrats be considered the conservative party, because I feel like living in neoliberalism is like way better than living in a fascist dictatorship.
Oh yeah.
Just a personal opinion. I don't like neoliberalism. It's really complicated capitalism is all it is. Or it's what is the Rick and Morty meme? That's just a really complicated way to say slavery or something like that. It, that's kind of like how I feel. But also like, I don't want to have to contend with fascists. So if we could like focus on just like destabilizing a truly minority party like the Republican Party, which only consists of at most 30% of like the entire population, not the voting population,
Isn't that crazy?
but the entire population. If we can focus on maybe like forcing them to shift over into the Democrat side, and like have to contend with what Democrats have to deal with, then it would be an opportunity for like a different party to come up, like the DSA, who I think is probably well positioned for that, to take over and kind of like move from there. And then they would be the new left party and the left party in the United States,
Right.
And I think that would be long term probably the best move. Because in the short term, again, we're not going to have we're not going to wake up tomorrow and like it's going to be a socialist revolution. Like I doubt it. Like the chances are so little. It's not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen in my lifetime. Probably not going to happen in my child's lifetime.
That's what I was just going to say next is that, the stuff you're talking about, I'm going to be in my 80s or 90s by the time all this actually comes to fruition. And, you might be there too. This is a 40 to 50 year situation. That's how long it takes for stuff like this to change. Typically, is that going to be the case in the future? We don't know, but
yeah,
that's kind of how the way it's been historically. So
that's I know like there's a big divide in lefty communities to vote third party or to vote with the Democrats. And again, I said it earlier, the easiest thing to probably do is if you live in a purple state, electorally speaking, it would be best to probably just vote Democrat for now. If you live in a guaranteed X state, whether it's guaranteed to be red or guaranteed to be blue, it's probably best to vote third party in that case, because then you can give them that little populist push, when it comes time for the popular vote. And be mindful also of the changing politics. Texas is really close to becoming a purple state. Their last election, it was the cities, Austin and Dallas and such. The big cities are starting to really have a lot of sway in the elections now. They have, because of course their population's increasing. Texas is one of the fastest growing states in the nation currently, or at least last time I checked on it.
Texas and Florida for sure.
A lot of people are moving to the cities. There's a lot of job opportunities. It's cheaper to live there. It's like Florida thing all over again. And Texas is likely to become the next like purple battleground state. So that might be the next place that we'll have to focus on getting. Turning blue and then maybe turning green in the future or something, or whatever. I don't know what the DSA color would be.
Have you ever been to Austin before?
No. The furthest west I've been was Colorado, but that was over plane and I was like a kid. I've been to New York a couple times because I got family up there, West Virginia, Alabama like once, Georgia a couple times, but most of my life's been in Florida.
Yeah. Austin is, it's not as big as Dallas or Houston, of course, but it is the capital of Texas. And actually, it's funny because I've been to the Capitol State, the Texas State Capitol building, and I've never been to the Florida State Capitol building or the Michigan State Capitol building. So the places that I've lived in, I've never checked out. That shows how much I've been interested in government.
Well, Tallahassee's not exactly the best location. If we were to change it, it probably should be in the center of the state.
Yeah,
that's what the Romans did. They tried to keep their local provincial capitals somewhat centralized, and if they couldn't, they'd be on the coast because that's where the majority of the population would be.
Right.
There's in history, that's kind of like what you want to do. That's why a lot of courthouses, they'll put, it could be in the middle of nowhere, like in Flagler County. The courthouse for Flagler County is in Bunnell, if I remember correctly. And that's because it's like mostly in the center of Flagler, give or take, off a little west, but and the land's kind of cheap out there too. But it's fairly centralized because you want people from all around the county to have somewhat equal access to it. And that's kind of like the best idea for it.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Austin's a really cool city. If I had to pick a place in Texas to live, it would probably be there. But anyways, I don't want to get too off track again. Do you have anything else?
Hopefully this will be the last thing before we close out here. And this is...
And then we got to give our shout outs.
Yeah.
And our special guest.
We've got... Okay, so Greg can't see this currently, but I've got BallotPedia up right now. I just want to kind of show this real quick since election season is upon us right now. If you haven't gotten it, or whatever, mail-in ballots have started coming in.
Hey, there it is.
Mail-in ballots started coming in. This is what the doohickey will look like.
There it is.
There you go. There's 2 iterations of this kind of ballot. The real one will have like the signature and stuff, the dates and all that stuff that you have to fill out. There's a sample ballot. It won't have all of that information, and it's going to say sample all over it. So just keep that in mind. If you do get a sample ballot, don't mistake that for your mail-in ballot. Also, another thing in Florida, they provide what's called a secrecy sleeve. So if you don't get a secrecy sleeve, that's probably an indicator that you got a sample ballot. So just to kind of give you an idea, it gives you instructions and stuff.
You plan on doing mail-in voting?
So no, I actually don't. And this is some of the stuff I'm going to get into real quick. I got the mail-in ballot, but I plan on turning it into an early voting location because my county allows people who have a mail-in ballot to turn it into an early voting location, or you can turn it into the elector's office, either one. So you don't have to mail it in, but you can mail it in. So for all those who have a mail-in ballot, but you're really like skeptical of how it's going to go out this year, you can skip the line. You just fill everything out like you normally would on a ballot. You put it in your secrecy sleeve. You put it in this thing and sign it legibly because, and John Oliver actually did a really good thing on this. One of the biggest reasons why mail-in ballots get denied is because the signature is actually trash or something like, or it's like not legible, or there's some sort of like discrepancy on the ballot or something. So
aren't most people's signatures unlegible though?
They try, from what I understand, they're supposed to go based off of like your previous signatures on stuff. So like whether it's your driver's license or if it's your like actual, when you signed your voting stuff, they'll try to go off of that. And there's a whole deal with that.
What if you have like a hand surgery or something?
Exactly. That's a big issue.
That's a big red flag for me.
It's a big issue, and again, it's one of the reasons why a lot of ballots get declined is because the signature doesn't match. Well, they're very strict. They're strict because people who tend to be conservative or Republican get their panties in a wad about voter ID laws and making sure that you're an actual citizen, and they're concerned about voter fraud, even though statistically it's like less than 0.00000, I don't know, like a nearly infinite amount of zeros repeating one chance of voter fraud happening. I think there's like double-digit instances of voter fraud cases since like the 21st century started in the United States. So voter fraud, it's unlikely to happen, but they tend to have they make big deals about the signature and all that kind of stuff and making sure everything's correct and legible and all that because of voter fraud reasons. So, that's the thing.
Yeah, I get it, I guess. But I feel like in today's world, there's some kind of technology we can come up with that could get rid of that.
The thing is, we could just not have to, we don't care about it as much because, again, voter fraud is statistically so unlikely to happen that it could not swing an election. Like, it just can't happen because the amount of voter fraud that happens on an annual basis is so insignificant. We're talking about single digits amounts of votes. And then B, I forgot my second reason. I totally forgot whatever the second reason was.
That's okay.
Anyway, I have BallotPedia showing. It's a website, ballotpedia.org. It's a really good place to find out like your state's information, who's running, sometimes local stuff, but that can be iffy too because local people are always difficult to get information on. It'll tell you.
They have all the different what's the word for the proposals and
Like all the amendments and stuff that you're voting on.
Yeah, all that. I noticed that at least for Orange County, they've got stuff up like that.
They'll have what's on the ballot. They'll have a summary of campaign contributions, so you can see how much money has gone into like different amendments and all that kind of stuff. And it breaks it down from support contributions and opposing contributions, as well as the outcome related to those contributions. So once the election comes up and they count the votes, they'll give you the outcome, so you can see how money actually affects politics to some degree. There's petitions. There's just a whole bunch of information. It's great if you want to learn more about what's on your specific ballot. And again, when I was talking earlier, the mail-in ballot to go into an early voting site location or the elector's office, check your local county and check your state if you're out of state to make sure you can do that. Don't just take my word for it, because this literally could vary from county to county. So double check it. I know in Putnam County you can, but I'm not going to check all, like, I don't know, like 50, 80 counties or whatever. So
I don't think I've received anything in the mail yet, but I was planning on voting in person anyways.
Which is probably, if you're not going to do it this way, that's probably the better idea, considering USPS is kind of getting right now.
I agree.
And then the other thing was I wanted to talk about the amendments kind of real quick. This is from Tallahassee.com. This is the Tallahassee Democrat or whatever. And this talks about like the pros and cons of each amendment, which I think is actually pretty cool. It kind of gives you an idea of like what the right thinks and what the left thinks on each issue. Some of them are just super yikes to me, and others are they were ambiguous enough that I really had to kind of like get a better idea for them. So I'll just start like 1 to 5. The first constitutional amendment is citizenship requirement to vote in Florida. This is effectively just changing like a couple words in I guess it's the Constitution for Florida, to only citizens from every citizen. So it says every citizen can register to vote as provided by law. That's what it currently says. And they want to change it to only citizens can vote, which is it sounds like it's just a semantic thing, but to me, this kind of sounds like a conservative talking point that I've heard before. This kind of sounds like the slippery slope into voter ID laws, requiring, very specific documentation showing that you're a U.S. citizen in order to vote. It's redundant. It's stupid. We kind of already went over it. There's no need for it. Statistically, voter fraud's not an issue. You shouldn't have to have an ID. It's been decided by the Supreme Court that is unconstitutional to have to provide an ID, or any other type of voter requirement is unnecessary and unlawful. So I find that to be just like a stupid amendment. Look it up more if you're interested.
Is this for the whole state of Florida?
This is for the state of Florida. Yep.
Oh, okay.
For the state of Florida. That was the first one. I was like, oh, yikes, buddy. Because I know people don't like the whole slippery slope argument where like, oh my God, it could just become the worst outcome possible. Well, this case, it's like been proven that this can become the worst outcome possible. The Supreme Court had to rule on it. I believe it was in North or South Carolina, where they had a voter ID law and they found it unconstitutional. There were some places in Texas that ended up getting the same ruling because they were disproportionately putting voting locations in white middle class neighborhoods or closer to those areas, and then the like black and the poorer communities, they didn't get as many voting locations. So what ended up happening is that there was a disproportionate representation of voters from white communities and middle class communities, and poorer and black communities ended up not voting as much. So what this can lead to has already been decided to be illegal. and unconstitutional. So there's that. That's all I got for that. The next one, the Amendment 2, is raising Florida's minimum wage to $15 an hour, starting at $10 per hour, starting September 30th, and then increasing it by $1 until September 30th of 2026. That's September 30th, 2021 it starts, and then 2026 it ends. Obviously, that's a yes. It's been statistically shown that places that increase their minimum wage generally have higher, It's a higher standard of living without like all the downsides that people keep toting, like, oh, everything's going to get expensive because now they got to change and shift costs onto the consumer, and we're all going to die, kind of. I don't know. It doesn't happen.
That was a good interpretation.
Yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Totally honest. Usually I try to do better than that, but I'm trying to save a little bit of time here.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like the idea. What usually ends up happening in reality is that prices will go up like 20 cents or something. But at that point you have like a $5 to like, in our case, I think it's almost $9 increase in minimum wage, which takes a lot of people out of poverty. And it brings them above the poverty level. I think $15 an hour, if you're working 40 hours a week, is about 30-something thousand a year, not including any expenses and such.
I still don't think that's enough money, but
so I don't think so either. I think it should be more, but I'll take whatever I can get. So
yeah,
I think minimum wage 40 hours a week right now gets you like 21,000 in Florida or something like that. I'd have to look it up again, but I'm kind of short on time.
That's fine. That is a good thing. You're right.
Constitutional Amendment number 4, voter approval of constitutional amendments. How much do you know about Brexit? I promise it's related.
If I'm honest, I don't know a ton about it, but I just know that as far as liberal versus conservative, it's a more conservative thing to be for Brexit.
Yes. So this basically is like a forced referendum vote every time a constitutional amendment gets added to Florida. So the voters
is this the thing where you were talking about that? Yeah, people had to vote more than once.
You had to vote like twice or something like that for every single amendment. So like, let's pretend this is already enacted. Okay, let's pretend we're not voting on this. It's already a thing in our state. We have to vote on this twice. Okay. Now, I don't think they specify whether it's every 4 years or 2 years. But usually when voters vote on things like this, it's one of those two options. It's usually every 4 or 2 years for obvious reasons. Midterm elections, and then the general, which usually the presidential election is part of. So the $15 minimum wage we're talking about would have to get voted on twice. What was it? What did I literally just talk about a second ago? The third constitutional amendment, where all voters in primary elections and all that. That was we haven't talked about that one yet. What else was it? Sorry, there's just like so many. When I first voted my first time, there was only 2. It was front and back. This one is front and back, 2 pages. There's a lot of shit on this ballot.
Right.
Sorry, $15 minimum wage, the citizenship requirement.
Right.
And there's some other stuff too. So we'd have to vote on all that twice is the point. 2 times. Right. Like none of this. So in 2 or 4 years, populations can change drastically. Just this year alone, obviously we had COVID. 210,000 people died. Disproportionately, those were older people. Okay. So we can see that there's a massive difference in population that can occur in a very short period of time, just from like certain circumstantial things like that, where it was just a happenstance, bad thing happened, bad timing, bad everything, and it kind of got out of hand. This can happen on like local levels. We have Flint, Michigan with the lead stuff that can literally change a population in a short period of time. When you're voting on something, in my personal opinion, you're voting on it right then and there, and the whole population is voting on it right then and there. They're not really supposed to expect that they're supposed to see it a second time. And I brought Brexit.
It's just super redundant.
It's super redundant, and it's unnecessary, and it costs money because we have
Right.
to get poll workers, we have to like get facilities up and running. It's just a waste of money and a drag on the
Yeah.
economy to do this twice, you know.
So, I was just going to say, so for all of these things you're mentioning, it's Ballotopedia? What's it called?
Ballotpedia, and I have a news article as well that helps go through them.
All right.
So I'll provide both of them in the comment section, or not comment, but the description.
I'm not trying to be that guy, but I want to get to what happened. I want to get to Nathan,
Yes.
our friend Nathan, and I want to get to what happened over the weekend so I can do a shout out for them. Is there like a TLDR?
Yeah, I'll try to make this quick. The others shouldn't be too bad.
Okay.
There's the primary one. You can sit on either side of this. It's basically calling for open primaries in a way. So it's just more
And that's
so.
the thing where, because right now you have to be registered Republican or Democrat.
Yeah, so if you're a registered Democrat in the primary, you can only vote
Right.
Democrats. If you're a Republican, you can only vote Republican. If you're third party, you can only vote third party. So we're a closed primary state. I think we're 1 in 7 out of the 50. So 7 out of 50 of the yeah, most states are open. It's like most states are open carry. Most states are open primaries.
Florida's got to get it together, baby.
I know. That's why I'm like, Florida's like a combination of California and Texas. They just have really.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. So, you know, I don't really care. If you care about that one, that's fine. I'm currently a registered Democrat. In my county, my vote as a Democrat is worth more than it is for a vote for DSA or any other third party, Green Party, whatever you want to call it, because we don't have anybody running, you know. So it'd just be better to vote Democrat and try to get the already right-leaning just a little bit left, because there's no option to go further than that. Let's see here. Constitution Amendment 5, limitations on homestead property tax assessment, increased portability period to transfer accrued benefits, or accrued benefits. And that's just basically kind of like a tax savings for people who own houses. So people who rent don't get to see this benefit. And more often than not, if you're renting, you're paying for the taxes whether you like it or not, because you know, if whoever you're renting from has got to make money off of you currently, as it stands. Yeah. So
rent this out.
but you don't get any of the tax benefits for it. So this only benefits people who own houses. So basically, if you're already doing well enough that you can purchase a house, you're just you're just getting stroked by the state for that one. I mean, because like it doesn't help.
This is a family show, Gabriel.
All the F-bombs we dropped.
I know. I'm just kidding.
No, they're just getting stroked by the state effectively. It also less tax dollars one way means that there's going to be a budget crisis somewhere, and they're going to either have to make cuts or they're going to have to increase taxes. And depending on what part of the state you're in, it's probably going to be cut. Something's going to get cut. So
yeah.
And then there's the ad valorem tax discount for spouses of certain deceased veterans who had permanent combat-related disabilities. I think something like this goes on the ballot each year. It's usually something in regards to like giving some sort of tax savings to, you know, families of veterans, of wounded veterans and all that, which I don't think anybody disagrees with. But you can also argue, if you wanted to, that any loss in taxes would mean that it would have to come from somewhere else. So if your county has like a disproportionately large population of wounded veterans, this might negatively affect you if you have a lot of social services that are required in that county. So there's good and bad. I don't think anyone's going to vote against that one just because the United States, we like to at least think we want to treat our veterans well, even though it sucks. Our veteran system has always sucked historically. So, you know, take that as you will. I won't judge you if you vote either way, because I can see the downside, but I can see the upside too. So, you know, I think there should be better ways to help affected families, You know, I don't think they're really wanting a tax discount. I think they, want help in other ways, other means, by like actually treating the people who are harmed by the foreign policy that we enact. Maybe that would be a better step, but can't help it. That's what's on the ballot currently. So fill it out, put it in the privacy sleeve, put it in here, sign it, make sure you don't do anything stupid here. This is so important. And I don't mean that in a degrading way. I'm super serious about it because, again, lots of ballots get thrown out just because of that reason alone. So that's it.
Woo! You heard it. You heard it here. You heard it here, folks. Voting is serious.
Voting is serious. Big, important, super big.
Super big.
super big. Sorry, guys. That was a lot to go through. I was trying to go through it quick.
That's okay.
I just wanted to touch up on it, though, because it's literally local.
Yeah. No, you're right. If you're listening in Florida, then this is how our life is going to be handled or our lives, rather.
Yeah.
Moving forward. So thank you for going over that.
I need water.
Take a sip of your cider or whatever.
Okay.
So next, I just wanted to go into really quickly what happened over the weekend. So me and Gabriel and a small handful of other people are part of a de facto group of, chapter, if you will. We are trying to achieve official status of a chapter of the Socialist Rifle Association, the SRA. We've talked about them in pretty much every episode
Although
so far.
this podcast is not associated directly with the SRA. It just so happens that we're members.
TM. That should be our trademark.
Ding.
Ding. Yeah, asterisk. Yes, we, of course, are not officially sanctioned by the SRA in any way, shape, or form, but we are very much active members of our local chapter, which for me is Orlando. Gabriel, you have been...
I'm in the middle. I'm stuck in the
sort
middle.
of adopted by us, but you live a little bit far away, but that's okay. And then there's Tampa. Orlando also covers the Space Coast, in case you're wondering. And then I do believe South Florida kind of has its own thing, and Jacksonville is
trying to figure it out.
Do their own thing. Yeah.
Oh, and Tallahassee, you can't forget about the Panhandle. They have their own chapter. I think they're the only official chapter. I'm pretty sure.
Oh well, I think South Florida is this too.
Oh yeah, because they got popular. Yeah, there's a membership number requirement before you can't just be like, I'm one person.
Yeah. So anyways, over the weekend, so we had a very large turnout for a range day that we kind of announced haphazardly, and then somehow, some way, like we had almost 20 people show up, partly from Tampa, but also a lot from the Space Coast and the Orlando, Florida area. And that just made me really excited. I've been trying to get something together like this for a long time, and I know there's been a lot of interest from a lot of other people in this area too. But me personally, I've had a struggle just finding a community like this that shares my ideologies and, finding my tribe, so to speak. And so we had a big gathering at my house here in Orlando, and it was just a really great meeting. So stay tuned for that. If you, again, are listening in Florida, and this sounds like a group of people that you'd want to be a part of, we've got leadership that is getting set up. Of course, email the show, and we can point anybody in the right direction for trying to join, that way. And so that was just really fun. And I just wanted to shout out to everybody that was a part of that. It was really, really cool to meet everyone and put some names to the faces and that kind of thing. So that was really cool. And then did you want to talk about what I said earlier about our friend Nathan?
Yeah. So we had someone reach out, and one of their friends runs a nonprofit organization out in Orlando to help house rehouse or what have you, like women and children, and especially with COVID, kicking people out and stuff of their houses, which is unfortunate. They've had they've had a lot of switching around and all that stuff, and they can rely completely on donations. And every now and then we get a little link in chat, so I figured we should broadcast it here. Anytime that they need money, it's always like they need to find out like last minute, because again, they're a nonprofit. They don't have consistent income. They're not really selling a service. They're just trying to provide housing, food, and all this stuff, all these social benefits to people who can't currently. So let me get their. So this is their Instagram, real quick. PORO_Orlando. Here's a little icon here. It'll look like that. And they just have a bunch of stuff. They'll announce here, it looks like, when they need money, how much money they need. It's usually not too much. If like 100 people were to give $5, that's usually like more than enough from what they need in most cases, or really close to what they need in some other cases. And then they also have information on how to volunteer on their Instagram, as well as donate, and kind of like how they started. And I'm not going to read it here because you guys should go out onto the Instagram and read it for yourselves. But it is very heartwarming and touching to listen to. They also have a link here to donate, and they have a few different ways to donate to them. So go ahead and do that. And then we're also going to play like a little clip of the call-in we got for it, and they kind of go into explaining a little bit as well. So I'll play that.
Hey there, Gabe and Greg, long-time listener, first-time caller. So thank you for allowing me to speak on the Sunshine Reformer podcast. I just wanted to do a social media crowdfunding campaign shout-out for this wonderful woman I'm working with. Her name is Miss Marvelous. She's the founder of PORO Orlando, and that's PORO, which stands for Pouring Out Refreshing Outreach. She does a lot of homeless support, and she helps feed, poor families and homeless people throughout West Orlando. She's a terrific lady, and she's been doing this work for the past 4 years, and she's been able to expand her work by partnering with Orlando DSA. The reason I want to do this shout out is because she and her husband, Attack, are having issues getting money from Attack's boss. In order for Marvelous to continue the amazing work she's doing, I really want to get as many people as possible aware of this crowdfunding campaign, so that way they can get rent paid, hopefully in the next week or two, including any late fees, because capitalism and landlords suck. And she's a wonderful lady. She would give the clothes off her back to someone who needed it more than her. She feeds so many people every week with the food donation boxes she gets in from like One Heart for Women and Children. They operate in Orlando. If you got the time, if you got the money, spread the word, make some small donations, and if we get 100 people to give $5, we're done. We're set. And I don't know too many rich people that I can guilt into helping out with one quick donation. But yeah, thank you for hearing me out. Gabe, Greg, keep up the great work with the podcast. I'm definitely listening to every single one as they come out. Adios, comrades.
I also wanted to say that I didn't really say this before in our little chatter before we started recording, but I'm going to go ahead and pledge $20 today, which is what I can afford right now, but I'm really going to hope that with my donation and just kind of starting the ball rolling, so to speak, that anybody who listens to the channel can at least maybe try to throw a $5 at them, something like that. Every little bit helps. That's how crowdfunding works. Is just a little bit from everybody, adds up really quickly, and does a lot of really good. Has a lot of good benefit that way. So, thanks, Nathan, for saying your little, talking about what is involved with the organization, and trying to help out some people that that's all they do is do good in our community. So, happy to help out with that. Sorry, I just had another.
It's okay. I got a couple other shout outs that we
What
can
else is
make,
next?
of course.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, of course, I think we talked about it in our second or third episode as well, but the National African American Gun Association, if you feel like that organization helps you or could help you, or you find better community there, definitely do that. Something that's typically targeted for the African American community is conservatives taking away gun rights from very, very specifically targeting those communities. Democrats don't typically have that record. So it's fairly important to defending Second Amendment rights of minority communities in the United States because they're already disenfranchised. There's no reason to make it worse. So if you feel like this speaks out more to you than the SRA would, definitely join them. And another one, another association or whatever you want to call it, is the Firearms Policy Coalition, nonpartisan, going about defending Second Amendment rights. So if you feel like this is something that calls to you, they're not as, organization-y or whatever you want to call it as the SRA maybe would be, but they definitely do good as well. So, and they're specifically geared to, it's like a better NRA minus the membership, I guess, would be a good way to kind of like what the NRA was supposed to be, defending Second Amendment, and they just weren't. So
they're the ones that they take your money and actually do good stuff with it.
Yeah, they actually do something with it.
5-star vacations and shit, or whatever.
So,
yeah.
Those are the shout outs. I don't have anything else. What about you, Greg?
Yeah, no, like I said before at the beginning of the podcast, like we've been getting a lot of really good feedback, and if this continues the way it has been, I'm just super happy to be here and that we're able to do this and educate people on stuff. And so thanks for all the feedback so far, and we're just going to keep it going.
Yep. We're on Spotify, Google Play or Google Podcasts, Apple iTunes Podcasts, and a whole bunch of others. We're on YouTube as well. If you've got a comment or whatever, comment on YouTube, like us, share us around, give us that 5-star review.
Did you put out the email address?
It should be. I think it's supposed to be on all of the things so far, because it was a requirement to get it all posted out. So the email address should be out there. If you have any questions, you can email us.
Yeah. If anybody has anything, if you want to be a guest on the show, whatever, that email address is the best way to get a hold of us.
So that's all I got. I'm Gabriel.
Yep, I'm Greg.
And
thanks for watching, guys. And
Sunshine
listening.
Reformer Podcasts. Have a good night.
Yep. Bye.